Hello, and welcome to the year's final Ready, Set, Scale webinar. I am Deepthi Dutt, manager on the Technology Market Transformation team at NEEP. I'm so glad you can join us as we learn more about demystifying the midstream heat pump water heater programs, as we know that water heating represents the second largest energy user in homes and buildings after space conditionings. A couple of things before we get started. This webinar is being recorded, and we have enabled closed captioning as well. We will share the slides and the recording with all the attendees. We are going to keep everyone muted. Please type in your questions in the Q&A, and we will address them in the Q&A session. The chat is available for comments, discussions, and collaboration. And at the bottom is our antitrust statement. Please give it a read, and we'll be ready to start. Big thank you to our Allies Network for supporting NEEP and the work it does. Our funders, thank you. And our state partners, a really big thank you to all of you for all the support. Oh, before we dive into the midstream programs for heat pump water heaters, I would like to give a brief background on the Heat Pump Water Heater Alliance that got NEEP involved in heat pump water heater work last year to boost the productivity of the existing residential and small business heat pump water heater programs in the regional market, and to help launch new ones. NEEP, ICF, TNR International, and AWHI, along with Energy Star, DOE, and PNNL, came together to co-lead a regional initiative. This initiative aims to engage interested efficiency program administrators, state and local agencies, and other motivated market actors like manufacturers, retailers, and home builders, distributors, and installers to team with utility partners in the development of enhanced program models for heat pump water heaters. Next slide, please. So here are some of the key barriers that we identified as a part of the Alliance. One of the big challenges with the heat pump water heaters has been the space requirements, where it requires about 750 to 1,000 cubic feet of ventilation or volume in a room for airflow. And then they have noise levels, which are around 55 to 65 decibel levels, similar to dishwashers and vacuum cleaners in a household. The equipment cost is high and the installation costs are high in cold climate region, where the temperatures can go below 35 Fahrenheit. They cannot be installed outside or in a place that can get colder than 35 Fahrenheit. And in Northeast region, another challenge is the homes are older and they may need electrical panel upgrades and plumbing upgrades that can be very cost prohibitive. And in general, the awareness and understanding of the technology among home auditors, contractors, and consumers is not that great. So we are planning to work towards enhancing that. Next slide, please. So as a part of the Alliance findings, our plan of action was to come up with 3 subgroups to work with interested utilities and program administrators: consumer marketing, contractor training and education, and tackling the high upfront costs with rebates and other cost offsets, especially in underserved communities. Next slide, please. So to give a brief overview of heat pump water heater incentive programs in the Northeast region, while there are offerings widespread in this region, they have been there for several years. The uptake has not been very high, despite sufficient manufacturers. For contractors, the incentives alone are not attractive enough to promote heat pump water heaters. Hence, the need for better midstream programs to educate, train, and boost their confidence in the technology. And with that, I would like to call George Chapman from Energy Solutions to talk about heat pump water heater program best practices. George, I'll let you introduce yourself and take it away.
Thank you so much, Deepthi. It's great to be here. Great to see everybody today. My name is George Chapman. I'm a director here at Energy Solutions. You can see my LinkedIn in the chat there. So feel free to go peruse that for a little bit more background on who I am and what I've been working on. So let's go to our next slide, please. So let me talk a little bit about Energy Solutions. So Energy Solutions, we're an implementation firm, we're employee owned, and we've got sort of 4 major pillars that we work on. The first is distributed energy resources, solar storage type programs. The next one is sort of our business strategy team, which runs emerging technology programs and similar related efforts. The third is the policy and ratings team. So that is standards development, policy analysis, data-driven policy, those types of things. Finally, our energy efficiency team, which is our largest and historic team here, kind of where we started. We've been implementing midstream programs, first in the nation to implement those types of programs 25 years ago. This is really our bread and butter. A lot of expertise on midstream programs and hoping to share at least some of those high-level thoughts and concepts with you all today. So that's a little bit about Energy Solutions, and let's go to the next slide. So the first thing to know about heat pump water heaters is that time is not on our side right now. It's a very exciting time to be in the space. However, the Department of Energy has recently indicated that they're going to require heat pump water heaters for most electric water heaters starting in 2030. That's a tremendous opportunity. Represents 27 quads of energy. It's one of the largest standards DOE has ever done. It's very exciting and it's very timely. But it also is very challenging because, frankly, right now the market is not necessarily where it needs to be to support this rulemaking. So if we don't get the market more prepared, if we don't get it more ready, we're going to have unhappy customers, we're going to have an unprepared supply chain, and we're going to have a bit of a mess on our hands in 2030. So we need to all start working together now because that date is creeping up on us faster than we might think. The other thing that we've got right now is we've got the IRA funding. Tax credits are great, but they're not everything. Incentives are great, but they're means tested. They can be complicated. This is a generational opportunity to really move the market for these products, but only if we take advantage of it and only if we run programs that work with the market. So right now, it's really about not squandering this opportunity, taking advantage of it and getting that 2% market share to where we need it to be. All right, let's go to the next slide, please. So this is a slide to just really help us understand why we're talking about what we're going to talk about point of sale here. So when we talk about point of sale, it's really about being able to provide an incentive at the point that the customer is paying for the water heater. Now, that may be at the point where they purchase it from the plumber. It might be at the point where they purchase it directly from a retailer. But either way, it is a means of getting the incentive to buy down that upfront cost at the time of purchase. It's not the form that you put in, you throw it in the mail, and you pray that 6 or 8 weeks later, a check is going to arrive to reimburse you. It's about allowing the reduced price to be there when the water heater is purchased by the consumer. Midstream or point of sale programs are incredibly effective. On the left, we've got this blue bar. The blue bar is a traditional downstream program in the same service territory that this midstream program entered. You can see the blue bar did okay. The green bar, where we did the midstream program, blew it out of the water. And these were running simultaneously, and it really shows the amount of lift that you get through a midstream approach. On the right, Maine runs a fabulous water heater program. Per capita heat pump water heater sales in Maine versus the rest of the country, they're kind of kicking everybody's butt. We're going to need 60% of electric water heaters to be heat pumped by 2030. Maine is already there. We all need to do sort of what they're doing. And so we're going to talk about some of the things that we've learned from their programs and that we implement in ours. So the foundation of all of this is to really align interests. Successful programs are working with the market. They're going to work with the contractors and distributors because they're the best allies for the adoption of heat pumps. We need to understand what their concerns and considerations are so we can align those interests. We can help them upsell the equipment, be comfortable with it, sell it to their consumers. They are a critical, trusted resource, and we want to work with them. This can be a win-win-win. And when we talk about aligning interests, the number here at the bottom really helps explain why. Ultimately, the interest for the market is they can make more money selling a heat pump water heater. An electric resistant gross margin, 18%. Heat pump water heater gross margin, almost 20%. That's important when you are trying to make money selling water heaters. Helping the market understand and realize that potential gets them bought into your program, gets them selling heat pump water heaters because it's the right thing for them to do. And that's how you lead to market transformation. Once they internalize this, the fact that they can make more money moving this equipment, then you've transformed the market. Until you do that, you're just buying people to do what you want them to do. You want them to want to do it. And that's what we're going to talk about. So let's talk about the supply chain. So at the front, we got the manufacturers. They're making water heaters. They make heat pump water heaters. These are premium products. They can make more money if they sell lots of them. They're very interested in getting people involved in selling these products. They've got lots of great trainings. They're a great ally, great resource. They are selling through two channels. One is distribution, one is retail. So for the distribution channel, that's really plumber warehouse, FW Web, there's all kinds. That's the channel where a contractor is really the purchaser. You and I are typically not going to walk into a plumbing supply. Maybe we do, but most of us don't. So the point of sale in that channel is from when the distributor sells it to the plumber, and then the plumber sells it over to the consumer. But the point of sale there is at the distribution level. The other main channel is through retail. Retail, they might sell it to the plumber. The pro desk at like a Home Depot or Lowe's is incredibly important. That's a huge customer growth area for these big chains. And so they are working on their pro desks and working with their plumbers and contractors. The point of sale may be to that contractor. It might be to an end use consumer who purchases it. Maybe they install it themselves. Maybe they're like me. I bought mine, had it delivered, and then called the plumber to install it for me. Either way, you can see the stars here. That's where the point of sale is. That's where we want to intervene, because that's where we buy down the cost. A quick note for your multifamily projects or larger projects, the distributors are going to have architects and engineers that they're working with. Those folks are going to influence your multifamily and larger projects, but that's not really our focus today, but that's sort of a 201 level. And when you're really looking for that next step, you're going to want to be engaging those folks as well. So this slide really is about understanding what the different folks in the supply chain are thinking about. So from the left, we got the consumer, then the contractor, distributor, retailer, and manufacturer. And so we'll go down through this. You'll see these pretty colors. The pretty colors map to the interests or considerations that's on the next slide. I think this is sort of our leave behind. This is like your homework. You can compare those slides later, and hopefully it'll help you understand how we kind of connect those things. So consumers, we're consumers. We know what we care about. We care about hot water. We care about upfront cost. Most replacements are emergency replacements. My water heater goes out. I want something fast. I want it cheap. I wasn't planning to spend this money. Those are really my drivers, and I want to know it's going to work. It's like a heat pump water heater. What is this thing? Should I trust it? Do other people have these? What's going on? Contractor wants to win the job first and foremost. They don't make any money if they don't win the bid. They need to be able to include the discounted price in the bid and win the work. They cannot have callbacks. Callbacks is lost money. They got to trust the product. It's got to be installed reliably. They got to be able to count on it, and they have to understand it so they can sell it to the consumer, make sure the consumer is comfortable. And they've got to invest to understand these heat pumps and understand this market. And so for contractors, they need to know that any incentives or any program is going to be there for them. If they're going to invest the time and effort to understand your program, your incentives, and these products, they need to know that it's going to be around for them to make money off of it. Because if it goes away, it's not going to be worth it for them. So they need reliability. For the distributors, the contractors, their customers, no dust on the shelves. They need to turn that stock as quickly as possible. And again, they also want consistency. They want to know that if they're going to make investments in their systems, it's going to pay back for them. Retailers, water heaters are one SKU of thousands on their shelves. They don't have time to focus solely on this. Everybody is their customer. They need consistency across their stores, and they've got shelf spaces at a premium. It's not competing against other water heaters. It's competing against, the 12-foot skeleton at Home Depot. I mean, that's also shelf space. So you got to think about all of that. Manufacturers, it's multinational supply chains. And again, it's consistency. You're asking them to invest in their equipment, invest in their supply chain to feed your program the product that it needs. They need to know it's going to be there. They also want to sell these products, so you need to work with them. They do training, they do marketing, leverage them. They want to sell these products, trust us. So work with them. They are a great ally. Let's go to the next one. So then you got to think about what are the market considerations. We call them barriers often, but a lot of times they're not really barriers. They're just barriers for what we want to do. They're not barriers for the market. So the emergency replacement situation. Heat pump water heaters need to be stocked. Frankly, they're more likely to be stocked if they're sold. So helping them sell the water heater helps them stock the water heater. But to get going, you need to support the stocking. First cost, again, consumers care about it, which means the contractors care about it, because that's how they win the work. Winning the job, need to be able to include that incentive in the quote, which means you need a point of sale. They cannot be waiting for that incentive to be able to put it in the quote. The contractor is not going to be your bank. They're not going to float an incentive for you. They can't afford to do that. The contractor, when they sell the job, they need to have gotten the incentive already so that they can pass that on to the consumer. It needs to be reliable, so you need education. The return on net assets, that's really about helping make the business case to the distributors and the contractors about how quickly they can turn and how they can make more money. Speak to them in the language that they speak. They are thinking about return on net assets, so you need to think about return on net assets. How to make the assets on their shelves make them more money. Finally, program certainty. That's about being reliable. They're making investments in the program that you're offering. Make sure that those investments pay off. Be consistent, be reliable, be something they can count on so that they know when they put the time in to make their systems work and figure out how to upload their incentives or what you need them to do, collect the right data. It's going to be worth them learning all of that stuff. Education is absolutely critical. Plumbers and distributors need to be comfortable with products before they recommend them. They're not going to recommend something that they don't trust. The influencers and contractors a lot in this situation need to be able to sell the benefits to the consumers. It helps them if the consumers have ever heard of a heat pump water heater. I'm like, oh, I've heard of that. I've seen those around. It doesn't feel so foreign to them. And if you help them understand, lots of people have these. They're all over the place. That can make them more comfortable as well. So help the contractors, both educating them and their consumers. Consumers need to be confident it will meet their needs. Their needs, reliable hot water. Talk to them about what they care about. Reliable hot water, cheap, reliable hot water. Great. And then manufacturers, again, they're doing so much to help train and educate and sell these products. Leverage them, work with them, be their ally, understand what their strategies are, and layer on top of them. So the benefits of a point of sale system. It promotes the increased availability, sales, and installation of efficient equipment. It does influence the distributor stocking practices. It also diminishes those upfront financial barriers. It actually has more impact on income-constrained households where that first cost is an even bigger deal. It's got a real equity lens. It aligns the interests of the market, which facilitates market transformation. Again, if you help them understand that selling these products, even without an incentive, helps them make more money, once that happens, then you've transformed a market. And you see here from Efficiency Maine, you want to hit both your distributors and your retailers. This is their participation in their program. And when you see it there, you see they work both channels, so they're hitting all the sales. That's critically important. So, talked about a lot of stuff. Hopefully there's some great questions. But I want to give 7 sort of key drivers, key takeaways here. First, you want to have the pass-through with the instant rebates. The consumer needs to be able to see that instant rebate. They need to be able to see your incentive on the bill, on the invoice, or on the bid when they get it, to make them comfortable. It's not something they were planning on. So they need to be competitive with the less efficient option right up front. Aggressive sales and marketing helps the contractors make the sale. You can educate them, and you can give them the resources they need to help educate their consumers so the consumers have heard about it. Optimize your data collection. You might have information that you need, but the more data that you require, the more hoops people have to jump through, the less participation you're going to get. Elevate the inventories, increase the inventory turns, help them sell the products, help them turn the products, help them make more money. That deep supply chain engagement, understand their needs, work closely with them, help them make the sale, understand what their drivers are, and listen to what they tell you. They know how to sell water heaters. You've got to work with them. Product and program training. Again, education is critical. These are not products that folks are necessarily familiar with. They need to trust them. They need to understand how to install them correctly so they don't get that callback. And finally, the supply chain account management, the single point of contact. These distributors, and the plumbers, they are working with account managers all the time for all of the products that they're stocking and selling. Your program needs to be one of those people that they are working with. This is how they work. This is how they operate every day. So mimic that. Have a relationship with them like their other suppliers do, where you understand their needs. You're talking to them regularly. They know who to go with to questions. You know that you understand them and you're working with them and you're trying to help them be more profitable and more successful. So those are, hopefully we've started to demystify some of the parts about midstream programs, point of sale programs. Happy to take any questions. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about it.
Thank you, George. It's great to hear about all these best practices. I'd like to invite Howard Merson and Helen Davis from Energy Solutions to join us for the Q&A session, and we can get started. Oh, and we do have some questions.
Yeah, so let me...
Can you see the question, George? Okay, so Tara wants to know if you can elaborate on how Maine has been so successful so far.
Yeah, that's a great question. There's even a few slides that we can share that talks about Maine's successes. It's really been about meeting the stakeholders where they are and addressing their concerns. The program is catering to the customers with the web and in-store advertising, targeting their interests, which are just hot water and low prices. So that instant rebate really gets to the low prices. And then overcoming like the plumber's concerns by providing extra install costs, understanding that is a real barrier for them. And making it clear that selling these products will make them more money. Also, with the advertising and the marketing going this way, that not selling heat pump water heaters could potentially lose them a sale. And then supporting retailers by helping them coordinate and between the whole supply chain and keeping the units stocked and on the floor, and providing those marketing displays with the QR codes that have the instant rebate. The next slide talks a little bit about like the success factors in Maine. They have very motivating incentives. If a unit is under $500, it's $850. If it's over $500, it's $950 incentive. So they are meeting the price of other water heaters at the retail level and the cheapest option at the distributor level by about $100. They make it easy to qualify. All you have to be is an Energy Star model being installed in Maine. And then they're supporting the process. They've got they're visiting stores, like the people administrating the program are visiting stores weekly. They're doing ride-alongs with distributors. They're paying the incentives quickly. And then the marketing too is a big deal. There's the messaging is there's tens of thousands of people in Maine that are using this product, which is true. Then they're grabbing that interest with like web ads, with the in-store displays, and they're sharing prices on the website. They're like demystifying the heat pump water heater. That's it's not like listed, but there's no price, so you don't know. Everything is out there. And then there's also this continuous improvement loop. There's many ways to provide feedback as to how the program's working. There's in-store interviews happening, conversations with homeowners, and a review on their Efficiency Maine website. And there's, I think, one more slide on this. This is kind of just summarizing the big things, which I'm not going to read them, but the point of sale discount, again, like George has said, is really a huge it makes a big difference. Emphasizing the benefits to the customer, not focusing on the technology, which people don't really relate to, but that the cost and that it works, that it's reliable. serving the supply chain, not managing the supply chain, and seeking feedback, and the clear mission. So yeah, it's been a very successful program. Thank you for asking that. We had the slides ready.
Ellen, I just to add on, one thing that really struck me about that was it turns out that people who aren't us Google the term water heater like once in their life, and it's when it breaks. And when they talk about targeting the marketing, that's what they're talking about. When a regular human being in Maine is like, water heater, Efficiency Maine is thinking they probably need one right now. This is a great time to tell them about a heat pump water heater. And so it's that kind of targeting, that kind of messaging. Again, it's not going to convince them necessarily, but it puts it in front of them. So when they talk to the contractor and the contractor says, oh, heat pump water heater, it's not the first time they've ever heard of it. They say, oh yeah, I know about that. I do see some questions in the chat too, Dipti. I don't know if we want to do those as well.
Sure. Yes. So while I look up those questions, I have a question for you. Can you elaborate a little more on what are the financial drivers for distributors for the heat pump water heater programs?
Sure, I can take that on. So the financial drivers, I spent about 20 years in the supply chain in electrical, HVAC, and plumbing. And so one of our key performance metrics was return on net assets. And George alluded to that in the presentation. But when you look at that, it's if you had a formula, and if you were to, and you can look it up anywhere, but there's a numerator and denominator. And so the numerator is really about income and what drives the income. So George went into the gross margins, and that's part of the driver. But also with a heat pump water heater from a baseline product, particularly on electric to electric, it's about 150% difference in gross profit dollars. So the sale is going to take place, whether it's at a retailer or a wholesaler. And if they have a higher price point and then you take the margins, they will bring more dollars to the bottom line as a result. So that's the top of the formula, the net income. But the bottom half is really, it's accounts receivables, and George discussed about rapid turnaround, which is on the slide that we're seeing now. That's the receivable side. That you have to reduce the receivable. So if you have a higher number on the numerator with the income and reduce the numbers on the denominator, you can raise the return on net assets. And for retailers, there's all kind of other metrics, gross margin, return on investment. All of these follow the same pattern. But let's go through what you're seeing now. So I went into the numerator, and we know that if we can move from a baseline product to a heat pump water heater, the income goes up. If you can decrease the inventory turns, how do you do that? You have to have aggressive sales and marketing. You need to create demand. By creating demand, the dollars are not sitting idle. Now you're turning the inventory. What does that mean? I mean, if you have $100,000 in inventory, and if you can turn it 6 times a year versus 1 time a year, your investment just, it reduces substantially as a result. With that, the accounts receivable side, which George was discussing about the rapid payments. When you have at a wholesaler, the average payments are anywhere from 50 to 55 days. If I were a contractor and I purchased from a wholesaler, I do not have to pay until 50 to 55 days. That's the way it works. It's one of the benefits of working with a wholesaler, and with retailers, they also have line of credits. Why? Because contractors have to be paid. And so it takes time. So this is the way the market works. When you have an incentive, and it's in the form of an instant rebate, and implementation firms such as Energy Solutions and many others in the marketplace, our goal is to turn around the percentage of the incentive at a the complete incentive, which is the percentage of the sale, at a faster rate than 50 to 55 days. And we're now in single-digit days. For distributors, they're lowering their accounts receivable investment, and as a result, the return on net assets goes up, cash flow is better, everything works for the marketplace. And so those are the key components. You go in accounts payable, but that's really not an area that we're going to discuss today.
But Howard, it's not about memorizing that slide. It's about They'll make more money selling the product if they can turn it quickly and we pay them quickly. I mean, you get those three things, their return on net assets goes up, right?
That's really it, George. And then for the marketplace, they now have an energy efficient product that's going to return day in and day out, energy efficiency and reduce bills. And that's what we're all in business for, as far as reducing the greenhouse gas and all of the things that we wake up to every day. But yes, this is a true case of a win-win-win.
Perfect. Thank you, Howard. So Luke Miller wants to know, for a state or a utility that's ready to start a heat pump water heater program, what are the major barriers or considerations they should be aware of early on for a successful program, aside from money?
So cash is king. Money is useful. But aside from money, it's really about getting buy-in. It's going to take a little while. You're not going to turn the spigot on immediately. What it's really going to be is a couple of early adopters. It's like any market. You'll have your early adopters. Those early adopters are going to go try a thing. It's like, all right, we'll try it. You want them to have success. You want to make it easy for them. If they're successful, their competition is going to notice that they're being successful. And they're going to say, wait a second, suddenly I'm seeing a lot of sales of this product, or, I'm seeing that my competition is moving a bunch of heat pump water heaters. Why are they doing that? Oh, they can make more money off of that. Oh, I'll invest in it. But it also means that when you're asking them to do that investment, they do need that commitment. They need to know that you're going to be there, that your incentive is going to be there, that your program is going to be there, because you are asking them to change the way that they do business. So some of what you need is, frankly, is patience. Some of what you need is reliability and accountability, saying this is going to be here for you. It is something that you can invest in, and you have to be trustworthy when you say that. And some of it, frankly, is helping spark that market competition. We often will help folks in the market understand how it's going and what we're seeing and what the trends are. And they all know kind of how they do and how they stack up. And if they find out that someone over there is suddenly making a lot more money because they're working the program and they're getting the incentives and they're selling the higher margin products, they're gonna say, wait a second, I'm falling behind here. And now it becomes an issue of, I gotta keep up. And so you build in that, it's capitalism, baby. So it's drive the competition. The competition is going to drive up the participation and drive down the pricing. And that's what we want to do. We want to harness the awesome capability of capitalism to move more efficient products. You do that by having it be something they can invest in, and you do it by sparking the competitive juice and rewarding your early adopters and working with them.
And I would also
Thank
add
you.
what George just stated, it's important to map the supply chain. If you're going to have a program in the marketplace, you need to know where you're going, and you need to know who are the players that are going to make it happen. So I would encourage anyone that's going to start a program, understand who the players are and have a program and a map and a strategy associated with that. Your associated manufacturers and reps and all of the market actors will help you with that. And then we're all working in the same manner as far as, Roz and Todd benefits all.
Yeah. And the manufacturers do know who the players are in your market. They will happily tell you because they would love you to help sell their products to those players.
And staying consistent too. Like consistency might be more important than getting exactly perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. While we wait for some more questions from our audience, I have another question. Howard, you mentioned about supply chain, and I saw in one of the 7 drivers, George mentioned too. Can you elaborate on what does deep supply chain engagement include?
Yeah, so deep supply chain engagement, we have a process that Efficiency Maine, actually, when I was at Efficiency Vermont, we exchanged a lot of information as far as how can we transform marketplace. And one of the concepts that we developed was one called SMIT. And SMIT basically is sales, marketing, inventory, and training. And so when we go into SMIT, we've discussed the value proposition and mapping the supply chain. So that's a start with it. You really have to know where you're going, and you have to understand what the value proposition is in the marketplace. We formalized the sales, marketing, inventory training. We went to all of the heat pump water heater manufacturers in a given market, and we had first internal meetings. And then we issued into the marketplace a request for information. And it was just as what I just stated. It was sales, marketing, inventory, and training. We asked each manufacturer to complete the request for information and present it to our teams. This was anywhere from a 4 to 6 hour session with each manufacturer. These were one-off meetings. And what we learned is all the manufacturers have different strategies. We wanted to support their strategies. We didn't want to mandate their strategies. We wanted to be collaborative with the strategies. And when we had that, and then we started working with distributors and retailers, and we understood which manufacturers were tied in with which distributors and retailers, and we're all on the same page, it accelerated market adoption. And some of the feedback from this type of activity, you say, my gosh, hours of one-off meetings. I mean, how can we afford that? One of the manufacturers said it was the most comprehensive program for impact in the marketplace. We're proud to be a partner. Another said, I want to thank you for a great meeting and looking forward to working with all of you for your time and information that was shared. A third manufacturer, we as manufacturers look for you for guidance in what equipment to develop, bring into the States, or developing in the States. And your program is really a national leader because of this approach. So when you look and you have that type of feedback, what you realize is this is the way the supply chain operates. And we have to adhere to the best practices of the supply chain so we're all on the same page and having market transformation.
Thank you, Howard. That's very informative about Sprint. Earlier, Tobin Galvin asked a question. Can you please discuss data collection requirements from an EMV perspective?
Gladly, Dipti, if you'll allow me, there's another question about creating the most simple process.
Yes.
I would love to combine those because they're very related.
Sure.
Great, thank you. So the EMV question is really critical. It's understood that states and utilities have certain obligations they need to make sure that they're spending consumer ratepayer dollars appropriately on programs. You want to understand how the program is performing, and also you can't manage what you don't measure. So, okay, we do need to have good information about where these heat pumps are being installed. It allows us to do things like target low, moderate income. It allows us to make improvements to the program. So we do need data. However, you need to understand who has the data that you need and who you're asking for that data, and really being focused on what it is that you need. What's essential, what's need to have, what's nice to have, and what are the use cases for the data that you're collecting. So I'm not going to speak to EM&V. We don't do that. We're on the other end of that. People tell us what they need and we try to supply it through our programs. I would say, however, that you need to understand, so if you're doing a midstream program, for example, and you want to get customer address or customer account number, well, the customer may or may not know their account number. They can probably find it. Their contractor certainly doesn't know the account number, and maybe they can find it, but they have to ask the customer, and then the customer has to dig it up. Address the contractor will have. The distributor won't even have the address. I don't know. They're selling it to a plumber. So you have to understand who's got what information. You got to understand what information you need. And then you've got to make it easy for them to provide the information to you. So we use an online platform. Many firms do. We're hardly unique in that way. We allow for batch uploads. So we can have a distributor can upload thousands at a time, hundreds at a time, whatever it is. So they can do it all at once. They're not doing one at a time. They can enter different fields. We try to make it as easy and work with their processes as possible. We try to collect only the information that is absolutely essential. We try to understand who is going to have that information. So we're asking the right people the right questions. For something like retail point of sale, it's got to be information you've got at hand. Because you're not going to the store and then going back home to get a thing and then going back to the store. So you got to have that pretty well targeted. What information do you need to know? Are there ways that the utility can look up stuff on the back end to help not have to collect it on the front end? What do we need to know that we can go confirm it or look it up or what have you? The other thing is frankly, statewide programs are really, if you can do it statewide, that's awesome. You saw Maine. Maine is anywhere in the state with an Energy Star water heater. That's beautiful. We love that. Anytime you can do it statewide, that's great. At a minimum, make sure that there are your incentives and your processes. If you do have different programs by different implementers or whoever, try to get them aligned. Try to make it as easy as possible. Don't try to get them to learn 2 sets of whatevers or 2 sets of data. That will make it easier for them. And then, you got to work with them. I mean, I used to go out to the distributors and I would sit there and I would do the first couple for them. Honestly, you just sit at the computer and you type it up and you show them how to do it. And once they get the hang of it, it works better. And we often usually find somebody at the contractor who work in the office or at the distributor who you get one person there who gets really the expert on your program and how to get all the information. They can sell it internally. So we've got heroes at our distributors that it's like, oh yeah, so-and-so gets it and she will get the information from all of the contractors or all of the sales, and she understands it. And we have one point of contact and we try to identify a point of contact there. And so it's not just making it easy, but it's going to be a conversation, and that's okay. So hopefully that's responsive and useful for folks.
Can I add a few points about EM&V? In Efficiency Vermont, when I worked with them, and I came from the 20 years in the supply chain, I didn't really understand EM&V, but they had VEIC, and Efficiency Vermont has that. And so we developed the heat pump water heater program, and we had very few data collection points, and it became contentious within VEIC. They'd never seen anything like this before. It was 45 points, and it was from the telephone number, which today, who really does have a telephone number as far as a landline? I mean, the world has changed. And that was one of the questions I asked them. But I said, look, I'll tell you what, EM&V team, I'd like for you to go to the grocery store and the next 2 weeks, go and visit it. And as you're waiting in line, I want you to think about 45 questions that you're being asked at the register so you can get home. And then let's meet back in 2 weeks and let's see, where we are. We came back in 2 weeks. They came back in 2 weeks. We had a meeting. And were we at 45 points? No. Were we at 30? No. We're at 20? No. We're at 15? Some hands came up. We were below 15 points because of that one experience alone. So we were able to optimize the data. Now let's go to another, the antithesis of this. In California, we're involved with technology and equipment for clean heating. It's a contractor-led program. It is midstream per se. But when you have a very strong incentive in the marketplace and the contractors are leading it, and they're responsible for inputting the data collection, you can increase the number. So it's all a matter of who the players are and who's involved. George gave the prime example, retailers. It's the same thing as a grocery store. No one is going to wait in line and enter into an app 45 different data collection points. So you have to be smart with this. But where are we going? One day all this is going to be automated. It's just a matter of when. And the equipment will have location tools, they already do. And a lot of these questions and areas that we're struggling with, it will be automated in the future. We know that because we're hearing a lot of it from the manufacturers.
Yeah. Awesome. So we have another question from Chris Granda. Does a robust midstream program help with better implementation of LMI programs in underserved communities? And are there any successful standalone examples for LMI outreach?
I can talk about that a little bit. I think that you do need to cater your program to target those areas. You can target the contractors that are serving those areas with education. And you can, target adapt your education to more clearly understand the savings that you'll get on your utility bill. And I know that George and Howard just went on and on about less data, less data, less data. When you are trying to target these areas, it is helpful to have some data as to what's working for them and what's not. data about your customer base. You know, what is their usage pattern like? What's, you know, what is their like process in a replacement? So you want to really, it's a similar to all I said about Maine, you know, meeting people where they are, understanding your customer base. So you want to gather that data so that you can adjust your program in ways that will attract those low income communities and bring them what they need. And as far as a successful standalone examples, I don't know any offhand. We are trying to do some engagement in North Carolina with a research project. It's definitely on our radar as something that's really important as to how to increase the use of this equipment in low income areas. I don't know if George or Howard,
I can add.
Yeah.
You can have a midstream platform or point of sale instant rebate platform and have an LMI program. And we did that in Efficiency Vermont, and it was a hybrid. We offered the instant rebate into the marketplace. And then if you qualified from an LMI install, you submitted a claim. So it was a written, you know, prescriptive form. The marketplace loved it because we had the inventory in place. We had the education. The installers knew where to go and they would receive the instant rebate, and then to receive the additional dollars, they were there. And the program really had a significant increase over any other LMI program up to that point. And so you can be creative. And once you have a platform in place, there are many different just variations as far as impact in various markets. George, you have anything with that? Or
No, I just wanted to say, you know, Helen raised an excellent point, which is it's not about, it's just have a plan for your data. Like if you're going to collect it, have a plan for it. You know, why? Why are you collecting it? What are you going to do with it? Right. Collecting data is nice, but it doesn't do anything on its own. You got to figure out, what am I going to do with it once I get it? And targeting low, moderate income is a great use for it. So being able to overlay it, you know, if you've got location, install location, overlaying it with your census tracts for, you know, your disadvantaged communities or your environmental social justice communities, however you're defining those, you know, that's going to help you understand how you're performing in those communities. We certainly do that a lot. We like to share that with our clients because it helps. They've got goals. And again, we can now manage to it. We can say we're actually overperforming or we're underperforming to this degree. Here, we want to ramp up this. We want to have a training at this distributor because they're serving that market specifically. But it allows us to be much more focused in the types of interventions that we're taking because we've got a plan for what to do with all that information that we're asking for. If you're going to bother asking for it, you better do something with it.
Right.
Awesome. So from there, I would like to move to a little bit of a workforce-related question. Tara asked a question on how can midstream programs boost workforce development in the contractor community?
So I'm happy to speak to that a little bit. So one of the things that we've talked a lot about education and training, which is critical for the contractor community. This is an opportunity. These programs are an opportunity to help them stay ahead of the curve. This stuff is happening. The 2030 standards are going to happen. And the contractors who understand how to install and sell that equipment are going to be in an advantageous position. The other thing that we noted is, again, distributors and contractors can make more money by selling this equipment. It allows them to hire more staff. It allows them to build their business. It allows them to do more work. So it is helping them understand that this is a way for you to grow your business, grow your skill sets, grow your ability to sell different products. Heat pump water heater is not necessarily going to be the right decision for every consumer. They may have an installation situation where it's just not the appropriate technology today. And there are always going to be those sales out there, but being able to understand where it's that, they're still going to be able to make that sale, but now they can make the other sale too. And it's about giving them the tools. The other thing that it is it gives them tools to learn how to talk to consumers. These are not folks who necessarily have a lot of experience upselling customers. Their historic experience may very well be like for like replacement. This is a way to give them training, but how to talk to consumers about benefits other than I'll be in and out before you know it. It gives them other tools that they can use across their business. Maybe they're going to sell water filtration systems. Maybe they're going to sell other things. They're going to expand their business. This is an opportunity for them to learn a little bit how to talk to consumers, how to explain other, non-energy, non-direct hot water benefits, and again, get that training that they're going to need to be able to comply with the standards so that they're not the ones playing catch up. They're the ones who are ahead of the curve, who are able to take advantage of the new standards, and they're going to be, the best foot forward going, coming out of it. So we're giving them tools, we're helping them build their business, we're helping them make more money, which helps them build their business, and we're helping them figure out how to sell. It is not something that they've necessarily done historically. And so we want to give them some of those tools and just skills. It's skill development.
And really, I would also hope that, this is a new cutting edge product that's very efficient. It's exciting. It's a little more interesting to install. Like, this could help attract the younger workforce. And those a strong midstream program is really like solving that chicken and egg problem that, great, this is cool, but nobody's buying them because they're too expensive. But like, if people are buying them, then it kind of just spurs the whole thing.
Ellen, you can help save the world by being a plumber. I mean, that's a compelling message.
Right. Yeah.
But it happens to be just the benefit of being the truth.
Right.
Okay, I think this probably will be our last question because we are 7 minutes. We have 7 minutes remaining. So Chris has another question. He wants to know, like, how does the midstream approach work when a program has fuel switching goals? And what is the role of new 120-volt heat pump water heater in there?
I can start out. So the role of 120 volt for fuel switching is incredible, to be able to put in and go from gas to electric without a panel upgrade is great. So, if the midstream program can help have those 120s in stock and ready, then it's going to be easy to meet fuel switching goals in a program. The panel upgrades and the upgrades in the home needed to go from gas to electric in the past to a 240 volt has been a real barrier. So this introduction of, multiple options for 120 volt heat pump water heaters is a huge game changer. In the past, there's been options. Some contractors have used like a temporary gas water heater while the panel upgrades are happening, because you cannot, a household is not going to want to wait 3 days for this panel upgrade to be done before they can get hot water. People need and use hot water every day for showers, but also to keep their dishes clean and for normal everyday use. So that has been one solution, the loaner gas while you're getting that ready. But the 120 volt is going to be an even better option. And so if a midstream program can keep those stocked and on the floor and available, then that's going to be a big game changer.
And I think the 120 is highly important. It's new, and we're monitoring, and everybody is anxiously awaiting for the results in various markets. Cold climate, and right now it's in the Southeast and Southwest, or in California. At the same time, when you go into a retailer, they support all technologies, so electrical equipment and HVAC and plumbing. In the wholesaler world, we really need to have an understanding of the electrical players combined with the plumbing suppliers. And we need to have access to both, to where the installers really do understand where the incentives are offered and who's informed of the various programs, and it needs to cross technologies. Now, we have on the wholesaler side some of the major national players and super regionals are starting to bring in on the water heating side, electrical products. And this is a new development. And then on the electrical side, they're bringing in some of the plumbing products. And we're seeing this also with HVAC. Industries are starting to meld. We discussed supply chain mapping. You should understand the marketplace in all three of those verticals, including the retailers, but HVAC, water heating, plumbing, and electrical, and the retailers. So you can inform the marketplace on how to have an install and have no disruptions or delays as a result of whatever the circumstances are.
Just to put a fine point on that, for the Northeast region, I used to go out to plumbing distributors frequently, and in the Northeast, where they've been selling boilers forever, they all had mini splits. The contractors were coming there because they were doing boilers, and the homes did not have air conditioning. They had window units, and they were selling mini splits. And the contractors who had been going there for their boilers forever started buying their mini splits there to provide that cooling and offset the heating load at the same time because of the program development there. We have seen the stocking of that equipment change significantly, in large part because of the program support for that technology in our neck of the woods. I live in Massachusetts. Howard's in Vermont, so we know this area very well. And just I have seen that with my own eyes. And to Howard's point, we're seeing more and more of that, and the fuel switching is going to help escalate that if we're engaging the entire market and we're helping make those connections, because they're not the historic ones, but they are developing, and programs can support that.
Well, and I'll add, in the house I'm sitting in now in Vermont, we're switching over all electric, by the way, but the fuel dealer that we currently have, they also now are installing heat pump water heaters and air source heat pumps. They're one of the major installation sectors of this movement into electrification. So research your marketplace, supply chain map, and understand who the players are. In Vermont, the fuel dealers are a big part of this movement.
You can read the writing on the wall, and they're branching out. And exactly, Howard, understand it, and because it might not be who you expect, and the emerging ones. All right, I'm looking at the time. We got to stop talking.
Perfect. Yes. Thank you. Wow, there was a lot of information and some great questions. Thank you to Energy Solutions for a great presentation. Thank you once again to our allies, funders, and all the attendees. See you in the new year. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Real pleasure.